Great, let me draw us back together. I'm so excited for this morning's interview. We're going to be interviewing Lauren Windle, who is going to really inspire you this morning. No pressure. It's going to really inspire you this morning. I can promise you that. Lauren is a publishing director for SBCK, the publishing house. She's a journalist. She's a prolific writer. She's written 3 books, countless blogs, and she's written for Vogue, Marie Claire, Huffington Post, so many national newspapers you'd lose count. She is also a podcaster. She has started and hosts different podcasts, one of which will be of interest for some of you, I'm sure, in particular. She hosts a dating podcast for Christian dating app Salt. And I know that's got some interest. In the first meeting, there were a few cheers at that moment. But I know what some of you are thinking. Lauren, can you hook me up? The answer's no, okay? She can't. That's not what she's here for. Or maybe she can. Maybe she'll tell you about that in a bit. Lauren is also an incredible public speaker. She's spoken at all sorts of conferences, festivals, and events. She has done a TED Talk. Deserves a cheer. Bigger cheer when you hear about her numbers. Her TED Talk, Lessons a Drug Addict Can Teach You, has received over 600,000 views. That's a cheer, isn't it? One of them was me, Lauren. I did my homework. But Lauren has got an incredible story of her personal story of addiction, of recovery, and encountering a brand new life laid out before her through a relationship with God. I really believe you're going to find Lauren really engaging, but really inspiring as well. So let's give Lauren a really warm welcome.
Thank you. Oh.
Amazing. How are you doing, Lauren?
Yeah, good. Ready for round 2.
Round 2.
This morning was just the dress rehearsal, so you guys are getting the full polished show.
It was brilliant at the first, so I'm sure it's going to be great as well. So I know that those people are still thinking, but could you hook me up? Can you hook them up?
Yeah, I totally can. Right, guys. So just between you and me, just while we're alone. So I host a dating show on Salt, the dating app's YouTube. And it's called Third Wheel Dates. So not only do I and the producer match you with someone, I show up on the date to make it a bit awkward as well.
Are you interested or a little bit put off now?
So we're filming that in March, and we are currently going through applications. So if you want to jump on the dating show, then on Salt's website there'll be some sort of process for applying. And also I'm hosting with a company called Board of Dating Apps, which is a non-Christian company. They do lots of in-person meetups, but their founder is a Christian, and she's doing the first ever Christian event for that. There's an age range, it's 20 to 45. So if you're in that age bracket and you fancy coming into London, it's March 18th. It is the UK's biggest single Christian event. I'm there to wingman you, so you just can't go wrong. And the information's on Board of Dating Apps' website.
This has become quite a big part of this interview.
Sorry, yeah, and that's all I've come here to do, so enjoy your day.
I must admit, in the first interview, when Lauren talked about the age bracket, my first thought was, I'm too old. And my second thought was, I'm married. Why are you even considering the age bracket?
We are specifically looking for unmarried Christians. I should have specified, that's on me.
I'm not going to go, Tanya, for both of those reasons. I love you, sweetheart. Lovely.
Thumbs up over there.
Very good. You've written 3 books, and you've got some books to give away this morning.
Yeah.
Tell us about them.
Yeah. So I'm just going to just chuck your hand up if you want a copy, and I'll give it to you. So this is for anyone who's a bit jaded by the sort of Christian dating culture and wants to have a bit of a laugh. And yeah, okay, I think we found someone. A couple of people.
Got to be quick.
Anyone who has wondered if as a woman, Jesus really values you as much as men. And yeah, great, there we go. Wants to explore what it is to be a woman in the church. That's that one, that's notes on feminism. And then finally, drawing as prayer is great for people who struggle with sort of silence and solitude of prayer, because you've got a Bible verse and then a little prompt, and you just draw inside while you pray. It's really cute. Yeah, there we go, yeah.
Amazing.
Oh, sorry, just the woman there in the t-shirt. Yeah, that's you. That's the t-shirt.
Lovely.
Enjoy that.
Very good. And Lauren's books are available. You can go to her website. We'll give you the address later on for those who want to buy a copy. It's interesting because almost exactly a year ago today, I was doing an interview here at a Welcome Story Sunday for Ace from Gladiators. And it was amazing, but it was actually a bit awkward because like all the way through and afterwards as well, just had people coming up saying, which one of you is the muscle-bound celebrity? And it was just really awkward. And I don't think we're going to get mistaken today.
No,
what do you think?
I have got the biceps of a sparrow, so we're fine.
Actually, we could be in trouble again. So, listen, we're going to go deep to start off with. This is a big question for you, and I've read to the end, so I know this is an important question. You've got a top tip for brushing your teeth. Mm-hmm. Come on, lean in, people. Particularly those who want to go on that dating app, then perhaps you can learn
Everyone should brush their teeth before going on a date, that is true. No, I can't believe that people don't do this, but why aren't we all just brushing our teeth with warm water? Like, it's a cold day, you've already dragged yourself out of bed, it's like a hug in your mouth. Like, just turn on the warm tap and brush your teeth. I'm telling you, it's a life hack. Tonight, before you go to bed, give it a try. I reckon at least 40 to 45% of you will be converted.
Amazing, great. There you go. I think we're roughly there. We've talked about dating, talked about brushing teeth. Lauren, thank you. No, we'll keep going. We'll keep going. Lauren, we'd love to hear some of your story. Why don't you sort of start at the beginning? Go back to your childhood, family life, and take us from there.
Yeah, so, God, it's a real change of tone, isn't it? When you're like, right, and now tell me your testimony. So I grew up in South London, in Clapham, where I still live, and my mum was a committed Christian, and my dad didn't go to church, and that wasn't his sort of thing. So my sister and I, she took us to church regularly. And I didn't love church. I didn't really get on board with it for a number of reasons, particularly as I got into the older years, into the sort of pre-teen, teenage years, when I started being in the sort of youth Sunday schools and stuff like that. I found that the focus for me was just on what I shouldn't be doing, right? And often that was like, in my sort of era, of the late 90s, early 2000s, that was you shouldn't be smoking, you shouldn't be drinking, and you shouldn't be having sex. And they're the 3 rules, and if you're doing those things, you're a bad Christian, and the people who aren't doing those things, or at least we don't know that they're doing those things, they are the good Christians. And that sort of became my takeaway. But alongside that, from what I could see, the leadership, don't get me wrong, there were some phenomenal leaders, but there were some that were really poor, and I saw, a vicar leave his wife for a member of the congregation, and I saw a vicar, a youth pastor, again leave his wife for a girl within weeks after she turned 16, who was in his care in the youth group. And I had a family friend was punched in the face by her husband because she wasn't being sufficiently obedient. And those are very dramatic things, but there were other smaller things, and I remember my Sunday school teacher telling me I shouldn't have dressed as I dressed to come to church, but saying it, not sort of pulling me to one side and saying, oh, I wonder about the outfit you've chosen. Set in front of a crowd of people are looking at you shouldn't be dressed like that. And I just felt shame. Constantly. I just felt like there's this set of rules that I'm not living up to. I am not good enough for these people who don't seem that good to me anyway. I don't even want to fight to be like them. They don't seem that great. And I know I'm not welcome here because every time I'm here, I just get told I'm doing something wrong. So when I turned 13, my mum was like, okay, you're old enough now. If you want to stay home, you can stay home. And I was like, great, I'm going to do that. I'm going to stop going to church. So I probably, if you'd asked me, would have said I still believed in God, but I certainly wasn't engaging with it. My understanding of faith was like the rules and then the fairy stories in the magic book of big boats and hair getting cut and whatever, I sort of had like picture book Bibles and that kind of thing. And that was Christianity, and I didn't want it. So I walked away. But as I walked away, I think we all latch onto things, right? And for me, I was just so desperate, as many of us are, as like a 12 or 13-year-old, just to be popular. And I had an awful time at school. I think like I don't have the monopoly on like school-based trauma. I think we've all got like horrible stories of like kids being mean or times when we were mean, and probably both. You know, kids just do their best. It's just a total mess out there. It's the Badlands. But like at school, I had such an awful time, and I wasn't particularly kind to people around me, and they weren't particularly kind to me, and all I wanted was to be popular. And sometimes I thought the way to do that was to be mean to people, and sometimes I thought it was to be nice, sometimes it was to be too nice, to be too available. I just couldn't work it out, and it sort of felt to me like everyone had this like rule book, like everyone else knew intuitively like how to act in situations, and I was always on the outside. I was never, you know, from my perspective, you know, I always felt like I wasn't in the in crowd. And that led to what I now have language for, but at the time I didn't, sort of social anxiety. Like no one used words like that when I was like 13, 14, but we're all like hyper TikTok educated about this stuff now. So social anxiety is effectively what it was. And, you know, I didn't have any tools. No one was like, oh, you're socially anxious. Why don't you try a breathing technique? Why don't you try and pray before you go into something? Why don't you talk to a counselor or a shared person about that? So then when I found alcohol, I was like, well, this is a solution. You know, like in the absence of no one else is suggesting anything. Like, so, and when I was 13, getting hold of alcohol was reasonably easy. The law has tightened up significantly since I was a teenager, but you could go into a corner shop or an off-license and buy what you wanted. And there were always older brothers and sisters who were very accommodating if you did have trouble. So I drank. And I couldn't afford to drink too much because I was a teenager. But actually, when I drank, it was just this relief of like, okay, you don't need to focus on that anxiety anymore. Like that's not going to be like an all-consuming part of this whole social situation. Like you can have a few drinks, loosen up, as it were, and then you'll be fine. But I wanted to drink to get drunk. It wasn't just like, a glass or two's nice. I didn't like the taste of it, not at all. Like, who are we kidding? It's not hot chocolate. But like, I wanted the effects. I wanted to lose myself. I wanted to not be connected with the pain that I felt and the difficulty I felt around that bullying and that social anxiety. And then I got older, and that was still my main mechanism when things got difficult. And the situation changed, and you know, I started going to university, and suddenly I had sort of like a student loans, had some money. I wasn't sort of capped off at whatever tenor I'd managed to squeeze out of my mum. You know, I had some money in my bank account, and I just started drinking more and more. And I think, you know, as a teenager in London, and I don't think London is exclusively where this happens, but as a teenager, certainly in the 90s and 2000s, where like it was really respected to be able to drink a lot. And then at university, where everything surrounds alcohol, like, oh, there's 50p shots here, and we're going on a pub crawl there, and oh, we'll play that drinking game there. You know, you can drink in a really unhealthy way and absolutely hide in plain sight. No one's pulling you up on that. You're probably just, you know, oh, that's just what people do. It's normal. It was normal. So I drank heavily through university, and I was in a relationship at the time with a guy who drank very heavily, and he took drugs as well. He's now sober. He came into recovery a little while after I did. But we just had this really destructive relationship, and I was totally, again, language I didn't have at the time, but the word for it is codependent. But like, I just desperately wanted to satisfy every part of me. My purpose was to be his partner. That was my identity. You know, I wrapped myself up in that relationship. There was some coercive control involved. I was sort of very much under his control. And we've had some really redeeming conversations about this in the years since, but it was really awful and quite abusive. And we sort of would drink together and have these messy arguments, and you know, I'd throw punches, and it was all just considered normal, though, because that's what my friends did. We all drank too much. Some people took drugs. We went down the bookies. You know, oh, you're always shouting and swearing at your partner. That's just what it's like, you know. That's it. That was just the lifestyle. There was no one to sort of say, like, is this a healthy model for living? But then he broke up with me just as I finished university. And I'd put so much of my identity into that relationship and lost any sort of, wasn't attached to the church at all at this point. I'd really distanced myself even from my family because he didn't want to spend too much time with them. So I was really alone. Still got that social anxiety, still drinking to cover it up, still desperate to be liked and popular. 22 years old, and I get a job working in events and marketing. So now I'm running events for these like fancy restaurants, and this is like my ticket to popularity, right? Everyone loves the girl with the clipboard who decides who gets to come in. Like, I'm the party girl. This is my identity now. I'm going to be as fun as I can. I've always got a drink in my hand. I'm always pouring you a glass to drink. I'll dance on the table with you. I'll make the jokes. That's my identity. That's how I'll get people to like me. And then someone offered me a line of cocaine. And it's like, why not? Why wouldn't I? When I want to be this like party girl, when that is the identity I've got, where that's where my popularity, my affirmation comes from. Like, this is a natural part of it. And the people who I really admired and were hanging around with, they did that. They were older than me, they had more influence, they went to fancy places and members clubs, and they all took cocaine. So it was like, yeah, absolutely don't see why not.
And so was that regular? How often would you be out drinking, taking cocaine?
It escalated quickly. So I started taking cocaine. She, with my boss at work, was the first person who sort of introduced me to it. And then I think that week I took it again on another night. So going from 0 to like, okay, twice in a week. And then very quickly it was like 3 or 4 times a week. Probably 4 times a week, I'd say, is where I got to when it came to cocaine use, yeah.
Would you say, you talked about sort of wanting to lose yourself and sort of insecurities and stuff. Do you feel that, was that, looking back now, was that a big part of the alcohol and the cocaine taking? Or was it wanting to be, I don't know, centre of attention or life and soul? What do you think it was?
It's weird, isn't it? It's funny because there's a part, and I think a lot of people in recovery, a lot of people who've struggled with addiction relate to this. Like, there's a part of you that does want to be centre of attention, but a part of you that never wants to be seen by anyone at all. And it's really hard to reconcile, and it's this incredibly big ego with this tiny self-esteem. And you just can't work out, like, who you're supposed to be and how you're supposed to be it, and everyone else has sort of got it. I think it was a combination. It facilitated what I thought would make me popular, but also provided a new focus and a new distraction from the pain that I had that was so real from when I was younger, and meant that I didn't have to address it and didn't have to acknowledge it, and I had something else. You know, it's good to have a hobby, good to have something to focus on, and I chose drugs.
Your sister stepped in and looked to help. Tell me about what your sister did and what happened next.
Yeah, so things got really out of control. Going from sort of taking it once to twice in the week and then 4 times a week after that, things really spiraled. And my health declined and I got really severe memory loss. Like, you could have called me up and we could have spoken on the phone, and then I hung up the phone, and 5 minutes later, if someone had said, oh, who did you speak to? Unless I'd written it down, I just wouldn't know. I lived off of Post-it notes everywhere, and I was 25 years old, 24, 25 years old, you know, shouldn't have been having any issues with stuff like that. And I got nosebleeds and floaters in front of my eyes and numbness in my fingers and toes. Some of these are quite common for people who drink too much alcohol. Nosebleeds is more associated with the cocaine use. And I wasn't washing properly, didn't answer my mail. It was so rare for me to look after myself. Like, every now and again, I would have like a hot shower, moisturize my skin, put clean clothes on. And then to me, I'd be like, that's a day I've looked after myself. Like, that is a good day. Maybe today is going to be okay. Maybe I can sort my life out. You know, I've put myself together. I've done that. That was probably like twice a year. And this went on for a few years, and things got really desperate. And actually, by the time I realised how important it was for me to say no to taking cocaine, my ability to do so on my own was gone. And when it didn't seem important, initially I would have been able to walk away, but it just didn't seem important. It didn't matter. Like, take the cocaine, don't take the cocaine. Sure, I'll take it. But by the time I realized I had to stop, I couldn't. And that is really scary. And I think a lot of people, I've done this. When I was a kid, I went to school with a girl who really struggled with depression, and she had been prescribed pills and things. And when she talked about it, in my head, probably did say this out loud, I wasn't very nice as a teenager, but at least in my head I was like, just get over it. Like, your life's fine. You've got nice parents. Just cheer up. Like, I just didn't understand what depression was. And that was my attitude towards it. Like, it's just, like, nothing's that bad. Like, what are you doing? And then when I thought about addiction, from that same very unsympathetic, uneducated place, it's like, just stop. Just stop. Like, this thing is ruining your life. People are walking away from you. You're becoming unwell. Your job is calling you in to be like, what are you doing? Like, why haven't you just stopped? Like, just sort it out. But actually, from where you are within it, I cannot tell you how consumed by it you are, and how lost you are, and how you realize, by the time you realize you're caged, you have just built yourself in brick by brick, and you just cannot see over the top of this cage that you've put yourself in. And I had a friend who 3 of her parents, 2 biological parents and a step parent, died from addiction. Different sort of medical conditions associated with their addictions. And she said to me, why couldn't they choose me? Why couldn't they just choose me? And that is not the choice you have when you are truly addicted to something. It's not like you pick the thing you love most and it's your addictive behavior. It is that thing has hijacked you, and you are willing yourself with every part of you every morning to make the right choice. And then the nighttime comes and you hate yourself. And you feel so ashamed because you've done it again, and you must be weak and flawed and so disgusting that you cannot prioritize yourself or your life, or even for some people, your children, But it is a level of desperation that is incredibly hard to relate to if you've not felt it.
And I'm sure there'll be lots of people here today who you might be really resonating with Lauren's story, with things that you're struggling with, or addicted to, or you might be a loved one of someone who's struggling with stuff. We're going to sort of give you a way of connecting and finding ways to get help before the end of this interview today. So Lauren, your sister wrote...
That was the question you asked me? Oh my gosh, I've gone completely off piste.
This is gold. This is real gold.
Thank you. My sister's amazing, yeah. In the prodigal story, she's the one who stayed and got like 0 credit, and then I came back and everyone threw a party, and I'm like, oh, sorry.
So she wrote a resignation letter that she got you to hand in, and then a friend encouraged you to go to recovery. Yeah. Tell us about recovery. How are you feeling about going? How did it go?
Yeah, a combination of my sister sort of really encouraging me to make good choices, and she encouraged me to go back to church, but I didn't really get it. So about a year later, after I'd sort of been really trying, and I recognised I had a problem at that point, and I was sort of trying on my own, in my own strength, and sometimes managing it, maybe getting to a month or something, but still drinking quite heavily, and then sort of falling down. And in the end, a friend who I had moved in with by this point was just like, you made some good choices since you sort of told your sister, and she sort of made you leave your job and encouraged you to make those changes. But it's not enough. You are miserable, and I can't sit here with you every morning to hear you cry about the choices you made, only to watch you go out and do it again later that day. I want to see you get well, but this isn't, something's got to change. And if it doesn't, I'm not going to be here. And I don't think many of your friends are going to stick around for much longer. So I've got a list of recovery group meetings, and I want you to go to one. And I went, and I said I would go, and I put it off for a few weeks. It was probably like 3 weeks later that I rocked up to one. But I thought like it would appease her. And also, I'd seen them in American films where it's like, hi, I'm Lauren, and I'm an alcoholic. And I was like, how fun. Like, I can go and sit in one of those meetings that I've like seen on TV. And even in my head, I was like, this is gonna make such a good story at the pub later. Like to say to my friends, like, I went to one of those meetings, with all the alcoholics, and here's what happened. So I went like a bit of an idiot, to be honest, thinking like, what great people watching. And then when I got there, I felt when I got to the door, like not quite as smug. And I pushed my ear up against the doors were closed, and I could hear people talking, and I was like, do you know what? This is just such a mistake. I'm not doing this. Like, I think lots of people, if you turned up to Alpha before, you may have like sat in your car a bit and been like, oh, probably not. Oh, maybe I should, I'm here now. You know, it was that, like, am I going, am I not? And I turned to leave, walked down the stairs, but there was also a lift. So as I was walking down the stairs, the lift doors opened and this woman stepped out, and she was like, oh, are you here for this meeting? And I was like, oh, there's actually just been a big mistake. No, I'm going. And she was like, okay, you can sit next to me. And she put her arm through my arm, and she walked me into the room, and I sat next to her, and I just cried for a full hour while I listened to people say things that I had felt and experienced, but I had never said out loud. And I was saying, like, I think it's probably similar to something like the bereavement program that you guys are going to be running shortly. Like, if you can get in a room with people who have experienced the pain that you've experienced, it's like a magic trick when they start talking. You cannot believe how they can just pierce right through to your heart. They just cut out all the rubbish, all the stuff. And if that's, I've not done a bereavement course, but if you're, to just be in a group of people who've experienced the same pain, that's so powerful. Yeah. Just to acknowledge you and just to say, and then also for me in that recovery group, they didn't just say like, yeah, we know what that's like to be sitting there in bed with your heart pounding, thinking like, how have I done this again, and not being able to sleep, and just thinking like, I'm going to die. I'm either going to die at 27, like, all of the other people, like all of the people who took loads of drugs who are in the media or whatever, or worse, I'm going to live, and I'm going to keep living like this until I'm 60, 70, and I am just going to hate every single day, and I'm not going to see a way out, and this is just my life now. And I've done this to myself. I can't even... And hearing them speak like that and just say, like, we know what that's like, and then hearing them go, but we found a solution, and we think it's going to work for you too. Honestly, I was just so ready to give anything to feeling the freedom and the joy that I saw in some of those people.
Amazing. And they say the difference between sympathy and empathy is sympathy. I'm sad to hear what you're going through. Empathy is I've walked in those shoes and I understand.
Is that, I didn't know that. That's good. That's helpful. I'm going to use that. Yeah, that'll be the next talk I do.
And I know they were just an incredible support for you. I know the other part of, a really big part of recovery is a God of your own understanding or a higher power. Why is that so important within recovery? Go on, let's answer that one.
I think that so much of what we do, we sort of believe that we are the beginning and end of it, right? And particularly like, going into recovery as an addict, someone who was using and stuff, like I saw myself as the start and end. So if I make a bad decision, that's just it. I've created that mess. I've got to fix that mess. You're alone. You stand, you are an island. You do what you can. You try and influence and control as much as you can for your benefit. And like the vast majority of the world lives that way. And that's like such a shame. But in recovery, they're like, no, that's actually not going to get you very far. Look, this, you've tried that and you've ended up in this room. So why don't you try our way instead? Yeah. And they said, we believe you need a higher power. They were like, it's not you, but work out what it is. And we're not going to dictate that to you. But we think that you will need to rely on that higher power through this process. So I went back to a church. I've been taken to a church before, Googled it, rocked up at the first one that came up on Google. And they said, oh, do you want prayer? If you want prayer, come up to the front. So I came to the front and I said to this American pastor, I'm 5 days clean and sober from cocaine and alcohol addiction. Fred, I don't know what I'm doing. I just need your help. And he was so kind. And it was like this was the moment that all of their training had been about. You know, he was like, sit down. Yeah, like, it's not a drill, Judy. Come on. You know, like, it's happening. Like, can we lay hands on you? And they asked me to do this prayer, like, where I repeated some things back, like how I'd gone wrong and I'd sinned, but actually, like, I accepted Jesus in my life and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, okay, you know, and I did that. And then they invited me to a women's Bible study. And I turned up to this women's Bible study. That was on the Tuesday after the Sunday. And the vicar's wife was running it. And the first exercise that she wanted us to do, she was like, okay, guys, we're going to go around. They're American. We're going to go around and each of us is going to say what we just love about Christians. Like, what have you seen that is so exciting, that's made you come here? And these poor young girls, they were so beautiful and so lovely and just so, you know, you just want to cotton wool them away from the world. And they were like, yeah, Christians are just so generous. And I'm like, okay. And they're like, and they're so kind. And you're like, yeah, sure. And they went round the circle and everyone just said like various sort of fruits of the Spirit, nice things that they'd seen, whatever. And I was literally thinking like, I bet these girls have never said a swear word in their life. I could not be more out of place in this stupid room, you know? And then it comes round to me. And I was just like, no, nothing. I have not seen a single thing in a Christian person that has led me here. I am here in spite of Christians, trying to find a higher power, despite what they have shown me. And then I listed off some of this stuff that I said to you earlier about people leaving their wives and people getting punched in the face. And I was beaten up at my youth group. Did I say that? I didn't. I keep forgetting to say that earlier. I was beaten up in my youth group at church. All this stuff. And I was like, so no. So I'm trying to work out what this is, but I don't have anything good to say about Christians. And this vicar's wife was in floods of tears by the time I finished talking. She was absolutely so sad. And she was like, okay, I know that wasn't me personally, and that wasn't like this church, but we have let you down. And you should never have experienced or seen or had to be around any of that. And I need you to know that I am so sorry. I'm so sorry that you as a young person were not just shown the love of Jesus that you should have been shown. And if you give us a chance, if you keep showing up, we're going to show you what that should have been like. Just trust us enough to show you how Christians should have treated you. And I didn't know I needed that. You know, I didn't know how heavy it felt to be in a church and to feel that I wasn't good enough and that the people around me were so inconsistent and you never quite knew where you stood and you really felt like at any point you were going to get told off for something, and it just went. It just stopped, and I never felt that. And I smoked for like the first year and a half, 2 years I was in that church, and they didn't think that that was God's best for me. They didn't think that that was gonna, you know, like smoking's bad for you, we all know that. They didn't once tell me, like, Christians don't smoke, you shouldn't be here, like, you know, you don't do that, you know. They were just like, that's Lauren, she smokes, you know. And they just loved me. And I stopped smoking, you know, I felt like God challenged me to stop smoking, and I did. But I'd also given up quite a lot at that point, so I needed the cigarettes for a bit. And God knew that, you know. So that was, he let me have it for a little while. But the Christianity that I'd experienced before wouldn't have let me have it, because it wasn't perfect. That's not what Christians do. But they let me have it. They just loved me every day, kept showing up.
And so you talked about when you were younger and just some really awful experiences of church and some Christians. It sounds as though the encounter of just authentic kindness and love made a massive difference. Can I ask you, what recovery, you talk about a God of your own understanding or higher power. What was there a point when you came to decide for yourself, hey, I believe that's Jesus? What has Jesus, how's he impacted your life?
Yeah, there definitely was. There definitely was. But like, if you ask me the date and the time, like, you know, when I said that sort of salvation prayer, when they sat me down in the church and sort of gave my life in words to God, but I wasn't like, boom, lightning bolt, this is it, she's holy now, like, Lauren is a changed person, here, she floats into the bar now. Like, I was exactly the same, still, you know, swearing. Actually, I did stop blaspheming virtually instantly. But swearing, yeah, you know, the smoking, the, you know, like all of the lots of the pride, lots of the desperation to be popular, lots of that stuff. And to an extent, I'm not saying that's completely gone. Like, I'm continuing to work and grow, but I was still like not a brilliant person. I wasn't like a model of Christianity. And I didn't really get the Jesus thing at all. I really did when I went into church. At that Bible study, they gave me my first Bible. I've still got it. It's dedicated to their daughter on her graduation, but doesn't matter.
She's probably still looking for it,
yeah,
isn't she?
she's like, Mom, have you got that Bible? They're like, I don't know, honey, just take a new one. We're at a church, just take one. Yeah, and it was, and I remember saying like, oh, okay, I'm going to start reading it. And I was told like, don't read from Genesis, read from Matthew. But my understanding was, so like read the Gospels, read the bit where Jesus comes in first, get to grips with that, and then deal with the rest afterwards, right? And I remember being so blown away when I got to Matthew 6, where he was talking about like, don't worry, basically, is paraphrase, like just don't worry, you know? And it's not as simple as that, obviously, for people who have anxiety and stuff like that. It's not, oh, just don't, oh, that's me done then. But like, actually, like, it was, you know, how much you're loved, how much you don't need to wait, like, God's got you kind of thing. And I remember saying to someone, I was like, this book has got like life advice. It's not just like stories about, you know, the boat and a garden and a magic apple. You know, like there's stuff in here that's really important and relevant to me. And they were like, I can't believe you didn't know that. Like, I didn't know anything. I didn't have any of that stuff. So I just really started building these blocks of like what it is to have faith. I didn't feel particularly invested in like Jesus as a person. Like, I didn't know him. I didn't know anything about it. But those guys consistently showing up and showing me that love, and it didn't matter who, you know, how annoyed I got or how gritty things got or whatever, they just kept showing up. It gave me the space and freedom to grow in my faith and to learn more about it and to ask more questions. And they never shot me down. There was no stupid question. And I slowly started to realize that I was changing in a way I really wanted to change. And I don't have a day or time, no lightning bolt, no appearance in my bedroom. I just took one very painful, very slow step forwards. And after like a year or so, I looked around and realized I'd come really far.
Amazing.
And within that, you know, I started to just completely rely on my faith. But even at a year, I don't know if I could say I was definitely doing that. It took me a long, long time to sort of, to grow and develop. You can't just, you know, click into a relationship. It takes investment and prayer and time, and I eventually got there.
Amazing. How long have you been clean and sober now?
That's so funny, yeah. Someone came and asked me that after the first talk, because I didn't say. So I am 11 years, 9 months, and what's the date?
11th.
11th. I think 14 days. I'd have to check. I've got an app. But yeah, thank you.
That's incredible. Just want to ask you another question about Jesus. What do you love about him or what he's done in your life?
Yeah, so much, isn't there? It's funny, some people are like, oh, but could you have gotten sober without Jesus? And practically, like, there are plenty of people who are in sobriety who don't share my Christian faith. So I can't say it's not possible. Of course it is. People are doing it and they're not Christian. But my goodness, I wouldn't have wanted to try. You know, like the combination of being around other people in community with people who are in recovery, and then being in church and growing in my faith, those two together really built something solid that I could start relying on, that gave me purpose, gave me identity, gave me community, all things that I've been searching for in such horrendous places previously. I suppose specifically Jesus, I don't know another God who gives so freely and asks for so little back. And I am currently doing the New Testament in 40 days, like a little sort of Bible reading plan on the Bible app, YouVersion. And like the first chunk of that, it's New Testament. So the first chunk of that is those Gospels, the the recounting of Jesus' life. And every time you read it, you're like, it's so easy to forget like quite how remarkable it is. Do you know what I mean? Because you hear it all the time and you're like, oh yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, he died for me. That's nice. And you hear it in school and you sing the hymns and you're like grateful and stuff. But then you read it and you're like, oh my goodness. Like just like, if this is for me, don't do it. You know, like, I'm not good enough for this. I'm never going to, and that's the point, right? I'm never going to live up to that sacrifice, that level of goodness, that he would take so much on himself, you know, where I see other sort of depictions of other gods or sources of things demanding from people and taking from people and expecting stuff. And actually all I see from God is just like, I just want to bless you. I just want to love you. I just want to give to you. And, you know, I was talking about this sort of idea of you know, it definitely took me time to sort of relinquish control of my own life and hand it over. And more, you know, I think that I definitely felt like to trust in God and to hand over to Jesus and to submit to Jesus, right? That sort of term is really like charged and feels quite horrible. And to do that was almost like unthinkable because I wanted freedom. But look, like I ended up trapped in the freedom I chose. And actually, almost like electricity, right? The more I embrace electricity, the more freedom it brings me to work in the dark or to, you know, refrigerate my food or to, you know, be entertained in the evenings, whatever. Like, actually, it's in many ways enriched my life, but I'm reliant on it. But like, so the more I rely on electricity, the more it gives me that freedom, right? The more I rely on Jesus, the wider my world becomes, the bigger it becomes, the more I see amazing things happen. And so, for example, I said earlier about I would wash and moisturize, and that was like my day, like I'd looked after myself that day. Like in that first recovery meeting, I went for lunch with them afterwards, and the girl said, actually don't know where I'm going with this, but I've started. I asked someone, I was like, you know, like, oh, do I have to do this? You know, what happens when you get sober? And she was just like, do you know what? I moisturize every day now. And to many people, that would mean like absolutely nothing. But to me, that meant everything. I was like, I could be a person who moisturizes every day. Like, who has time for that? I was too hungover or high or on a come down. Like, she literally looks after herself every day. And you know what? And that was like my first prayer. Like, I want to moisturize every day. Imagine that God had gone like, yeah, cool. There you go. That is your prayer answered. Literally, like, I do moisturize most days. But he's taken that, like, he takes every prayer that I have and he like times it by 10. I mean, with the moisturizing one, times it by like 1,000,000. Everything is so much bigger when you hand it to God. You know, like I never thought I'd be working for newspapers or writing. Do you know, yeah, okay, that's all that stuff. My proudest achievement is that I'm godparent to 4 boys, right? No one left me alone with their children before I got sober. You wouldn't. I remember being at a party, stumbling around high and drunk, and someone being like, come over here, sweetie, and thinking, that's because of me. That's because no one wants their child to be around me, because I'm a mess. And now there are 5 people who've gone, we want you to speak into, pray for, and support our children. Like, that is just phenomenal. And that's just the tip of the iceberg in the way that God has given to me.
Amazing. Amazing. Just so much gold in what you've shared with us today. I love what you said about you've never discovered a God who is like Jesus, who gives so much and yet asks for so little in return. And just that step by step, maybe that's just a moment of encouragement for everybody here, just a step-by-step journey of, we do sometimes see someone who says, like, I've had that, like a flash of lightning and I've become a Christian in a heartbeat, but actually so regularly, it is a journey, it is a step, followed by a step, followed by a step. And maybe that will resonate with you, wherever you feel like you are on that journey of faith right now. What about today, making a decision to take your next step of just coming to consider Jesus, who he is, what he claimed, what he offers for your life. Maybe it's a day for you to take that step. Is there anything you want to say as we wrap up, Lauren?
Yeah. Final two things, I guess, then. One is if you're here and you're like, do you know what, she's right, the church is awful, there are horrible Christian people, and even in the world, in the news now, I see people doing things and they claim to be Christian. I'm like, absolutely not, this is horrendous. Just want to say, stick around for Christ, not Christians. Hopefully you'll find some great ones here. I believe there are some great ones here, but Christians do let you down. But Christ absolutely will never. There's no moment. If you choose to invest in a relationship with him, you will not be disappointed. There's not a single second where I feel like, I wish I hadn't found that out, or I wish I hadn't gotten a bit closer. I am amazed and in awe increasingly the more I invest in that relationship. And literally everything will let you down apart from that, probably. God and Jesus will not let you down. And to have something you can be so sure of, I need it. So I just encourage, and if you have been hurt, maybe you need to hear an I'm sorry as well, and I really am. I'm so sorry. I think people have done such horrible things in the name of Jesus that he wouldn't identify with. And if you feel hurt by that, I'm sorry, but give us another chance. Because there's so much good here, so much more than people realise from the outside of the church building before they walk in, or when they're looking at the cover of the Bible before they open it. There's so much good. And I would hate it if you missed out on it because somebody showed you something awful when they shouldn't have. And the other thing is, if you relate to my story of addiction, you've got to ask for help. I know so many people in recovery, and I don't know a single person who did it on their own. And it is the bravest thing I've ever heard someone do, to say, I am struggling and will you help me? And maybe that is turning to someone here today. Maybe that is seeking out one of your church leaders. Maybe that's asking for prayer from the prayer team. Maybe that's Googling a charity, or you turning up at a 12-step meeting or something. But no one is too old or too young or has done too much or, has gone too far to claim the freedom that Jesus died to give them. And it doesn't matter what it is. You can step forwards and claim that, and there is no shame, just conviction of a better way. And I would love to see people step into more freedom. And I believe some of this stuff really will kill you. Drugs and alcohol would have killed me eventually. But some of it, it will just stop you living. And there's so much life to be had, And such a high price was paid. Jesus paid such a high price for you to have it. So the invitation is to ask for help, to do something, to draw a line in the sand, to let this be the day that you make a positive change. Do something today that you will be so proud of for the rest of your life.
Amazing. And Lauren, just on behalf of all of us, I think you're just an amazing example of someone who, as we hear your story, we don't recognise it because Jesus has changed you so much. So I want to say thank you for your courage. Thank you for being vulnerable and sharing your story. Can we give Lauren a really warm thank you? You can connect with Lauren, you can get links to her blogs and her writing and her books and her podcasts by going to her website, laurenwindle.com. Just want to take a moment just to pick back up on that next step thing that we spoke about. There are a couple of things that I'd love to encourage you to do. The first thing, I'd love just to encourage everybody to make a decision now to say, I'm going to come back next Sunday morning. You'll find it life-giving, you'll find it inspiring, and I believe you'll encounter God as you come along week by week. The other thing, and this is the big invite for you this morning, let's all grab our Alpha flyers just for a moment. If you've got them on your seat, under your seat, you might be sitting on it, just grab that for a moment. Alpha is an 8-session course, which is an amazing journey of discovering more about the big questions, the big answers to the big questions of life and faith. Alpha is 8 sessions. You have a lovely 2-course meal every week. You watch an episode of the Alpha film series each week, and around your table, you'll meet people, you'll make friends, and you can have those discussions about the big questions of life. Alpha is one of my favourite things, and I sincerely believe you'll absolutely love it. Can I encourage you, if you're someone who is anywhere on that journey of faith, can I encourage you to make that step today and sign up for Tri Alpha? Alpha is 8 weeks. Tri Alpha is the first week where you'll come and experience it for yourself and then have the opportunity to decide if you want to continue the course. Alpha's brilliant, and we're going to watch a short video now of people who have recently attended Alpha here at Welcome Church.
You're invited to Alpha.
Alpha is for the open-minded, the curious, for those who want to explore what life is really all about.
Each session involves food, film, live music, and a discussion where you can ask any question you like in a relaxed and informal environment.
Food, and great conversation.
The connection of just speaking to so many different people. I enjoy the discussion breaks the most.
The videos are really well put together, they're really well produced.
You're allowed to speak your mind. Everyone's took my opinions open-minded and I took it theirs open-minded as well.
Honestly, the conversation is rich, and it's an opportunity to meet people that you wouldn't have ordinarily sat across and had a conversation in a meal with. It's definitely something to come to. Why not?
I've sat here feeling completely free, completely loved, and it's been great to be honest.
I would say just come. There is no pressure. Everyone is super friendly. We made you feel really welcome. I think that you will enjoy it and learn a lot. So it's worth having.
This is the second time that I've done the Alpha course. I enjoyed it so much last time that I brought 6 friends with me and they seem to be enjoying it as well.
You've got to come. You've got to come. You've got to come because I don't think you can go about it, even if it's not your thing further down the line. I think it's an amazing experience and it's made an impact on me.
It's fun. Free food. Who doesn't want that?
And the free food is great free food as well. So there's our big encouragement. Why don't you sign up for Tri Alpha, week 1 of Alpha, so you can give it a go yourself. And hey, if you are here today and you've been brought by a friend, why don't you turn around to them before you leave and say, why don't you come with me to Tri Alpha? And do it the other way as well. If you've brought someone today, before you go, why don't you say, hey, I'll come with you to week 1. Give it a try. I believe you'll love it, but you'll get the opportunity to find out. Also just want to point you towards the QR code if you want to connect further beyond this morning as well. You can scan the QR code. There's a link for you to send a message to us, and part of our people within our team would love to be in touch